idea for the film, and then I guess how many iterations you go through before you arrive at this kind of world of the ghosts and the kind of surreal aspects of it as well. Whether that's right there at the beginning or whether, that all develops, basically.
Yeah, so I wrote a short film about a traditional healer set in Auckland here, a long time ago, before I made my first feature, and it wasn't made. I didn't get any funding, but so I went on to make my last feature. But then after that, I was still drawn to that idea of a traditional healer in New Zealand, but I thought I needed to make it more modern. At the same time, I was also starting to write a horror film, and so I had the horror script and as well, and this idea about the traditional healing, and then as I was at that time, I had this fascination with anti-hero movies, so I started watching that and those, and I sort of I've got three ideas, three elements that I needed to turn into a story. This came from those ideas. I think just combining them and making them into the story was, got started.
Right. And how many versions of this script would you go through before you shoot it?
Probably 200.
Really?
Yeah, the character started off as a traditional healer in Samoa. Then I changed it. I wanted to set it here in New Zealand, and the main character became an albino.
Yeah.
And then played around with that idea, and I thought, just try something else. So so I ended up one of the drafts, the latest drafts, had the main character being this brutal figure, but I guess when I saw Melissa, I was a bit open at the time, so because I knew the brutal appearance was too obvious, but I was but when I saw the main character audition, I thought, I think he this is much more stronger than he hides the violence a bit more than my original idea. So
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to add something, that the idea about the albino Samoan was also somebody who never came out into the light, and in fact that still is part of the story. So he stays very much, he works in the dark, he stays inside most of the time. So is that fair enough, Tusi? He stays in the darkness, in a sort of underworld.
He's great, really great. So the whole kind of domestic abuse thing, was that there early on, or does that develop over time as well?
It sort of just came around when I, discovering, just seeing that I had this element of violence, because I wanted to have a violent character, but just holding the violence in one hand and healing in one hand, sort of, this irony. Wow, that's a good starting point. So it's just sort of developed from there, just creating this world, and then brought in the domestic violence and everything else.
Cool. So I'll open it up to the floor. I've got questions I could continue to ask, but does anybody want to ask anything?
I really liked this film. I like the way that you've transposed a lot of Samoan culture into New Zealand, and that you don't explain things too much about Samoan culture to the audience. I'm still wondering about the tooth in the toe. But it's a much, much darker tale, this one. It's much grimmer, and I wondered where maybe their confidence came from to explore this darker side of some aspects of Samoan traditional culture. The violence that was inside the orator is much more explicit in this one.
Well, I'm sort of, this is the sort of films that I like. I'm a Paul Thomas Anderson, those guys, Nicholas Griffin, Winning, Writing.
Griffin,
Yeah, so I love this sort of film, and I thought it sort of suited what I was trying to say about domestic violence. You know, one of the questions that came up was when I was writing is, who is the real ghost in here? You know, this the real monster. It's humanity. It's human. And I thought that's it. It needed to be told in this way. And for the Samoan, I was trying to be more lenient. Limited. I didn't want to make it more culture. So I sort of thought I'll just be very, simple. Try and simplify the culture stuff in here so that people would overlook that and just sort of see the violence in it, domestic violence.
It also has a weird time feel because Wellington is almost unrecognisable, and a lot of the furniture and the settings resembled kind of like 1950s, 1960s New Zealand, interior spaces and that sort of thing. What was the idea there?
It's just trying to imply that this man has been here for a long time and he hasn't changed. The place itself was around 1950s?
70s.
70s. And it's a transition place. You get a lot of immigrants coming through, and I thought let's try and copy that and keep that in the film.
One of the things that was interesting in Berlin is that people from, especially second generation immigrants, recognised it as theirs, whether they were Turkish or whether they were Pakistani or whether they were Chinese. They recognised the challenge for them where they belonged in the country they'd been born, and their parents still had their roots in another place and their language in another place, and that was something we were looking for, I think, a sense of what it means to come to a new country and the connections and the disconnections.
Translations of the Samoan. I think I like it. I sort of enjoy it because it gives you another tool to try and tell the story. In Samoan, although it's not, the subtitles are just tweaked a little bit, but it's still same thing. It's just I'm not sure about how Annie felt about talking in editing the film in Samoan, but she did my first short film, so I think she's getting used to speaking Samoan now.
She also looks at the pictures very much, and she looks beyond the dialogue. The script had a lot more English dialogue in it than the final film does, but I think that was a lot of the dialogue actually was sacrificed in the storytelling and the cutting, wouldn't you say, Tusi? And in fact most of the performances carried what was happening rather than the dialogue.
Yeah, for this one I sort of overload the dialogue, so there was a lot of dialogue into the film because I wasn't sure what would happen. And so but I think when we were in the editing suite, I feels the performances sort of don't need explanation.
Anybody else? Oh, up the back there.
I was going to say, Malu, I really enjoyed the movie. My question is, why did you choose the name of the movie to be 1,000 Roads? Like, for example, so like for your first movie, you called it The Arta. Why wasn't this like The Healer? You chose to go with 1,000.
I don't know. I thought this was more interesting. Yeah, it's sort of the translation of his name. So I thought, I'll just translate his name. No need to do it during the film.
And I guess there are a lot of ideas about connections and disconnections, and there are lots of ropes symbolically through the movie. And the whole idea of, those ropes that connect you, hold you together, but they also can be the things that, hold you back. Like you think of ropes at sea, you really need the ropes will keep you to hold the line, and they'll protect you in a storm, but they also tangle you up. And all the roots and the umbilical cords and the hair, and there's ropes everywhere, 1,000 or more.
I really loved Sima. I love her anyway, but in this movie she was breathtaking. So at the end when the water's being poured over her, had you envisaged her reaction, or like that, just the fact that she's so pensive and quiet about it? It's not this, like you say, you love horror, so I imagine that she goes screaming out into her as she disappears, but instead it's this beautiful transitional moment. It was one of my favourite scenes. It's lovely.
Yeah, I had both.
Both versions.
Yeah, so written down her twitching, journey, and contorting, and all that stuff. I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I had that version, but then I think just on set, I think I sort of changed it. Yeah, so I thought, let's make her go with dignity.
Yes, it was. It was a very dignified exit. What's your favourite scene in the movie?
I'm not sure. It's probably the girl giving birth, standing up. Frankie. Yeah.
I think my one is the one before that, when you realise he realises he's had to give up all the power he has and just have faith that what he thought would happen will happen, and he's really frightened it. He's caused the worst possible thing. His real fear, and the outside the window, the wind and the rain and the storm is kind of like a real pathetic fallacy for what's going on in his head. But in fact, he has had to actually give up all his control, and that was a good thing.
We probably have to wrap up now, so if there's anybody who would like to ask the last question. The film opens today, doesn't it, across country? Yeah. So I guess you'd like people to go and see it. Tell everybody to go and see it. And congratulations again, guys. Yeah, awesome.